Hey, good morning, everybody in YouTube land. It's your buddy Choppadong, Senior Content Editor for DFSArmy.com. This is just a quick video explaining VegasInsider.com or how to read Vegas lines. Got the request from a couple of members, figured that everybody could utilize this information. So this is the type of stuff we do. We teach how to use these things. And as coaches and contributors at DFSArmy.com, of course, there's coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, that triggers 20% off discount when you run down into the description or the comment section of the video and want to learn more about daily fantasy sports, all sports, NASCAR, football, basketball, baseball. It doesn't really matter. We cover them all. And we've got the experts that are winning to guide you and turn you into a winning player too. So when it comes to Vegas odds, this can be used for any sport, of course, baseball, football, basketball, doesn't matter. A lot of sports run by money lines. Of course, football runs by point spreads. And of course, it's important to mention that is not a prediction. It coincides a little bit with a prediction, but it is not technically a prediction. Vegas only wants equal money on both sides of the bet. They want, that first game, Tennessee and Jacksonville, they only want, $1 million on Tennessee and $1 million on Jacksonville, because in which case they take the juice, move on, they take one side to pay out the other side, don't give a crap how the game turns out. So that's the way they balance all their bets. When they open their lines, they're trying to predict what the public is going to go for in a balanced fashion as money comes in, and that's where you can really take your education to the next level. Beat the bookie, sports betting, whatever. At DFS Army, you can get links over to that site as well. It focuses more on sports betting and learn steam moves, reverse line movement, all of that kind of stuff. But in a nutshell, as those lines open up across the different sports books, which you can see here, the lines are going to move a little bit up and down because all they're trying to do is find that balance. Is more money coming in on this side? Well, we need to move the line up to accommodate it. Or is more, other way around, move the line down. The over is hitting way too hard, so we need to tease the under. So, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those lines will kind of filter. And it's a very crude way of explaining what the general concept is. Whereas we can use these numbers for betting purposes, honestly, it's great because Vegas puts millions of dollars into resources of highly educated people to set these lines correctly so they don't have to change them too terribly much. It's within their best interest to hit it right out of the gate. That's where it does kind of get confused with being a prediction, because generally speaking, it's pretty close. Now, what specifically do these numbers mean? You've got an open, you've got all the other sports books. I don't even look at the other sports books. I'm not a sports bettor. I look at the open and the consensus, because the open is where the line started. The consensus is where it sits now across all these books as an average. So what I'm looking at right now is, it looks to me like Tennessee was a 6.5-point dog to Jacksonville when that line opened, God knows when. It is now flip-flopped to where it's a -1.5 favorite to Tennessee, not Jacksonville, but favoring Tennessee. That's a 7-point move. That's pretty big. The 48.5 over-under has gone down to 39. So there's obviously some kind of news that affected things. This might have been released, I don't want to think it was released 3 weeks ago before Nick Foles was hurt, but I mean, usually it's some kind of big injury news or some kind of massive disruption that happens. It's very, very interesting to me. This is the line that we're using right now. You can use the open and the consensus to see how the line is maybe trending, but this is mostly what you'll see is 43.5 down to a 43. No big deal. Stuff like this should make you go research things. Figure out what caused that. If you can't find it, just go by the consensus. That's the current line being offered right now, and that's what we're going to use. When you look at my week 3 chart, this is what I'm typically using. Now, I didn't include that game because it's a Thursday night game, but this is what I'm using is the current Vegas Insider stuff when I draw that up. Now, I don't go in and update that thing myself, but I'll do it at least once, and that's what I'll kind of go by is, what are we looking at? We're looking for high point totals. That tells you that the game should go, high scoring or low scoring. I'm looking for big point spreads, because the bigger the spread, the more heavily favored the favorite is, and that dictates game script in NFL. When a team is predicted to get out to a big lead, of course, we know what they do. They run the ball and kill the clock. They don't want to give the other team a chance to catch up. Well, they deviate their game plan a little bit. The other team deviates their game plan as well. The losing team has to go into catch-up mode, hurry-up mode, start throwing the ball all over the place to score and gain big chunks of yardage and score quickly so that they can catch up before the other team runs the clock out. Again, crude description of a typical game plan. Now, a 1.5, 2-point game is not very significant in terms of favorite or underdog because it's more or less viewed as a 50-50. It's when you start getting out to that touchdown favorite, 6, 7, 8. In some cases, my God, we've got a 21-point favorite, 22.5 now, New England over the Jets, 21.5 Dallas over Miami. I mean, goodness gracious. That's really getting out there. That's implying that we're going to see one team score a lot and the other team not score very much. Therefore, the one team that scores a lot is probably going to be running the ball and killing the clock as the game goes. Do we worry about pulling their starters? Not so much. I mean, if you think about it this way, NBA uses this a lot. We don't predict blowouts. We don't predict blowouts in NFL either. Why? Because the big studs had to do the damage to get it to be a blowout in the first place. So in Dallas's case, Zeke is going to eat. He may not eat in the fourth quarter. Maybe they'll throw Tony Pollard in there, but he might eat for 3 quarters. And, I don't think anybody would be completely shocked if Zeke scored 3 touchdowns, 1 through the air, 2 on the ground. I mean, he might score none. We don't know the actual outcome, obviously. And I'm not predicting a 3-touchdown game out of him, but I'm saying I don't think it would shock anybody if it happened because that spread is so large in their favor that it looks like there's not going to be a lot of throwing. Now, the first 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns might come through the air. Again, we don't know. Dak Prescott's probably going to have a pretty decent day if they're going to get up by 20 some odd points. Zeke is probably going to be used late, middle of the way to late if they're up by 20 points. The defense is probably going to be in a good spot because it's got everybody throwing at the defense all day long, trying to desperately catch up. Unless it's Miami, they may just roll over and die. They may just say, the hell with today, practice is going to suck tomorrow, I give up, whatever. Now, I would hope professionals have more fight in them than that, but it is Miami and they're already requesting trades. So, and not to digress too much, but you're kind of getting the point. Now, how do we specifically read that line? Let's take a look at the Jets. New England and the Jets. Let me get my calculator up for you here because this is how you're going to break off that game total. Come on, calculator. This is how you're going to break up that game total into implied team totals. How much of that game total are they implied to score? In the New England Jets game's case here, we're looking right now at a 22.5 point favorite and a 43.5 point over-under. So I would say 43.5. Divide that by 2 to split it up evenly amongst the different teams, right? And then I take that 22.5 point spread and I split that up. And I will subtract 11.5 or 11.25 points from the underdog, and then I'll just add the spread back in. So if I subtract 11.5, 11.25 actually, 11.25 for half the spread, the Jets are only implied to score 10.5 points. Now, could they score 40? Yes, but the most likely scenario, being that New England hasn't given up a touchdown yet this year, is that they ain't going to score a lot. So this number is probably pretty close. We add in the spread of 22.5, and New England is implied to score 33 flipping points. Almost 5 touchdowns. Will they? I don't know. They get up by 2 scores and it's 14-0, and New England might say, that's about it. They might go up 3 scores, 21-0, and never get close to the 33 they're implied to score. But if the New York Jets jump out to a quick 10-point lead, like happened in Washington, last week against Dallas, then New England's going to have to fight a little bit, and they might score the 30 or 40 points that we're looking for. They might score them anyway. Don't know. What I know is they're implied to score 33. New England is implied, or the Jets are implied to score 10.5. So that tells us that the running back is in play, the quarterback's in play, a couple of wide receivers are in play, the defense is probably in play, and we probably don't want anything on the New York Jets side of the ball. Now, you want to be a crazy contrarian and say Le'Veon Bell's going to go nuts, you get lucky, he somehow scores 2 touchdowns, runs for 100 yards, then yes, nobody else is going to have him. You will probably win a tournament. But I think you need to ask yourself, how likely is that to really happen? And the answer should be not often. Hey, is it worth it if it wins you $1 million? Of course. But if you're running 150 lineups out there, I wouldn't probably have him in too many. Might have him in some just in case the freaky deaky thing happens. But now that we know the implied points, we know the point spread, we know the typical game flow, we know all that stuff. What does this other little stuff mean? The U10 and the minus 10 or whatever. What we're getting at is the money line is attached to this. And we use this more in baseball, we'll use it more in hockey. The minus 10 means that the spread, not who's going to win the game, but the favorite or underdog as to whether or not New England even covers this spread. 22.5 minus 10 means that the betting side of things right now is saying, yes, New England will cover that. Now, it's pretty 50-50. That line is not likely to move because at a minus 110 is what that number means. You always put a 1 in front of it. Minus 110 means you got to give $110 to win $100 in profit. So if I bet New England's going to cover and I bet $110, then if they cover, I should win back $100, collect back $210. The bottom line, I mean, I don't know exactly how the juice works and all that, so maybe that's not exactly an entirely statement. But again, follow me conceptually here, not specifically. But that is what that number means: is that New England is favored to cover the spread. They are also, the game is favored to go under. That's what the U means. An O means it's leaning on the over. A U means it's leaning on the under. O for over, U for under. Leaning under a little, not much more than 50-50. Again, minus 110. Lay $110 to win 100. At the game total being 43.5 or less. Now I don't know what the payout is, what the money line is if it goes over, because obviously you're taking the quote unquote underdog in that scenario, because most people think it's going under. Where I think that line is weird is that we're betting New England's going to cover and we're betting it's going to hit the under. That's interesting to me. I would think if New England's going to score at least 22.5 points, it's going to at least beat the Jets by 22.5 points. So we're more than halfway to the over. So I'm not a sports bettor. That's where you need to beat the bookie. That's where you need Fight on Loosemeister, Anthony, those guys over there. Another great service. If I had my DFS Army screen up, I would show you where to find it. But you just simply go to dfsarmy.com. Oh, what the hell? Let's do it. Go to dfsarmy.com. And over on the right-hand side, next to our wall of wins testimonials, is the link to the Beat the Bookie site. You can use coupon code CHOP over there too, CHOP, and get a 20% off discount, I believe. If not, email me. I'll make it work. I'll get you whatever discount I can get you. But that's where you would find the Beat the Bookie sports bet. These guys are actually doing very well. They are beating the spread. If you follow their advice, you are making money. And with states coming on board and with things becoming legalized across the country, that is probably the wave of the future. And you might be smart to get in ahead of the curve, become an expert, and take a lot of that easier money as it comes. Not that sports betting is ever easy, but when you have an advantage, you should be exploiting it. Speaking of exploiting advantages, you probably need to pay attention. Box checkers will come out later this afternoon. We'll do wide receivers and running backs. There's an email out right now talking about onslaught lineups. We're going to create an article at DFS Army for the NFL side of things. The coaching is up. The sheets are up. The population or the projections are populating. Everything is coming online for week 3 inside the NFL. And as a matter of fact, there's your sports bet and your pick analysis right there for NFL. These are betting articles on Beat the Bookie, obviously. If I go back to DFS Army, then you'll see that. But my point is, consider becoming a VIP to one site or the other. Use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Get that 20% off discount. Get in here. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Ring the notification bells. We'll be back with more data. We'll be back with more podcasts. We'll be back with more videos. We'll be back with more tutorials. All these sort of things. I do little free teaser stuff, but I cannot tell you the leap you take when you jump inside and actually trigger all of the coaching that is making people better players. It is, yes, ruining your edge if you don't have access to us. Sorry, can't help you. All I can tell you is get in here while the getting's good, because eventually we're going to chew up all of the edge in the sport, and we're going to dominate it from top to bottom. That's the goal. Hopefully you're a part of it. Come back and see us a little bit later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully you guys become VIPs and get on the winning action. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you very, very soon.